Hi, I'm James McGuire, and today we're talking about a subject that is at the very heart of business and technology these days, and that is how can we trust the quality of our data? How do we make sure that our data is high enough quality that we can really use it to make important business decisions? To discuss that, I'm joined by Josh Rogers, Chief Executive Officer of Precisely. Josh, thank you very much for joining us today.
James, thanks for having me. It's great pleasure to be here and look forward to the conversation.
Great. So I want to ask you, what is the problem with data trust? It seems like it really runs across the industry. I read this report, I think it was from Forbes Insight, that said that 84% of CEOs do not trust the data the decisions are based on, which is pretty problematic. Why do we not trust our data? What is the problem these days?
Sure, there's a number of kind of issues that feed into this lack of trust, and based on research we've done in our interaction with customers, we kind of break it into a few different kind of issues. The
Mhm.
first is that two-thirds of organizations struggle with siloed data, and so they have
Mhm.
a data set that they need to be able to do a particular analysis or answer a particular question, and that they find that that data is trapped in a bunch of different systems, so they have to
Mhm.
bring that data together.
Right.
The second issue is that when they do bring that data together, which is generally harder than they think it's going to be,
Mhm.
they find that actually nearly half of all data records have a critical error upon creation.
Hmm.
And so they have to figure out how do they spot those errors, and then how do
Right.
they correct those errors. More and more, we see customers trying to incorporate additional context into the data that their firm generates to be able to get a better sense of kind of the state of play, if you will.
Mhm.
And so customers are more and more looking to incorporate the notion of location into their data elements, and that's a
Hmm.
new discipline for a lot of organizations. Uh,
Locations like where it's stored remotely in house, or what silo you mean?
so the physical location. So I'm looking at insurance risk, and I need a very precise location around where this policy is, so I can
Okay.
understand, this claim for hail damage. Did they actually have a hailstorm in that location that
Right.
or it's fraudulent? And then the last piece is that firms are, and this goes to more context, firms are also trying to figure out how do I acquire third-party data to kind of enrich context. So how do I buy
Mhm.
data products from other firms, bring that in, and integrate that into my own firm generated data to get maximum context? And that is a new discipline, and it's really difficult to not only identify trusted sources you can purchase data from, but then integrate that data into in an intelligent way into your firm generated data. So those are some of the big issues we see customers kind of dealing with in terms of getting to trusted data, which we would refer to as data integrity.
Right. Interesting. Okay. Well, I want to give you a chance to talk about your own products and how it solves the issue, but I'd love to get an overall sense for those potential customers or users that don't really know the technology as well. When a software platform or solution works to make data integrity better, what sort of actual tasks is that software typically doing? And you sort of touched on it in your answer one, but what is that software doing when it improves the quality of your data?
Sure. So, I mean, it generally you need software approaches to attack those issues that I just talked about.
Hmm.
So the first is I need to be able to extract data out of all of my core systems and be able to bring it together, and that's kind of in the industry known as data integration. And some
It's
trends.
it's separate. I'm sorry. Is that same as ETL, or it's actually different from ETL?
Yeah, that's a great question. So ETL would be an example of a style of data integration, but there are
Okay.
other styles. And in fact, today, what we're seeing in the market is that customers are more focused on real-time insights. And so they want streaming approaches or change data
Hmm.
capture approaches where I've actually got very low latency kind of data feeds that are being brought together in real time so that I can drive real-time analytics. And generally, customers are looking at streaming solutions for that. And so ETL is generally thought of as a batch process that runs overnight or runs every hour. And what
Hmm.
customers want and what use cases require is that data be fresher than that to make good decisions. And so that's an example of the type of software that customers will use, streaming and ETL and data virtualization, lots of different types of software products in this space that help
Hmm.
people solve that integration challenge. From a quality perspective, customers are looking for software that can scan data sets and say, hey, I found the issues. I found, this is I've got alpha characters in a zip code field. And we know that's bad data, so we got to figure out that issue. I've got 4 digits, and it should be 10 digits for a phone number.
Right.
So that's called data profiling. And then what customers want is they want to be able to not only spot those issues, but be able to create and actually have the software create automated rules to fix that. And then the third piece is, how do I incorporate that context? And so that's, how do I take an address and establish a geocode? How do I hang a bunch of different attributes off of that geocode so that I know not only where specifically is this address located, but what's all around? What school district is it in? How close is it to a floodplain? What are the points of interest around this? What's the closest Apple store? And so those are some of the types of use cases and features that customers are looking for software and data products to help them solve and kind of achieve this notion of data integrity.
Well, if you talk specifically about the precisely solutions, what separates you solutions from, say, another data integrity solution? What
Sure.
makes it different?
Yeah, I mean, the first is that we can actually deliver across all of those challenges. So we're the only firm that has a breadth of capability that allows customers to help customers kind of attack those data silos through a wide range of integration solutions, whether that be batch or streaming. Has a full set of capabilities around not only data profiling, spotting the issues in data and data quality, kind of remediating those issues, but also data governance. How do you manage that data going forward? And then we have a terrific capability in context. So we can help you understand location and help you kind of implement location analytics on your data sets. And we have about 400 data products that we can sell to you that we will help you integrate into your existing data assets to give you more context. There's no other firm in the world that has that breadth of capability to help customers on their journey to data integrity.
Is there a single pane, so to speak, that someone's going to log into and they're going to say, well, there's a possible data silo, there's an issue with integrity? I mean, how does the solution itself work in that sense, in terms of user interface?
Sure, it's a great question. What we find is that customers are trying to transform their business through digital transformation, and that word is thrown around a lot. And what that actually means in practice is that customers spin up very specific projects to help create a new capability to digitally engage customers, to create more efficiency in a supply chain, to better manage risk. And these specific projects have specific requirements. Some of them may be heavy on, I need additional context in my data to make a better insurance decision. Or it may be, hey, I actually need to attack some silos so I can get an accurate view of inventory. And so the way we have chosen to structure our products and like to work with customers, and we find they like to work with vendors, is to be able to map our capabilities into not just this vision of data integrity, but the specific initiative that they're starting with. And
actually,
so
customized, you mean?
We have a suite of products, and those products all work together. But you can start with this one product. If you're trying to attack an integration challenge, you can start with our integrate portfolio and apply the right module in the suite to attack that issue. But if in the next phase of that project you want to start to focus on cleaning up the data and improving quality, you can add in the quality module, and you can rest assured that it will work seamlessly with the integrate modules. And so we find this suite approach to be a way that allows customers to get started in the way that they want to get started with the most important and solve the most important requirements for the first project, but they can expand over time as they take on new initiatives. And so what that does, it controls the cost, lowers the risk for the vendor, and helps them accelerate time to value.
Interesting. All right. So let's look to the future if we can. I think a lot of companies want to know where we're going so they can sort of prepare for it now. And so my question is, what do you see in terms of the future of data integrity? Is there going to be a year and say, 2025, where we really have this all figured out? Or, what are companies going to be grappling with in terms of data integrity several years down the road, as you see it?
Sure. We like to talk about data integrity being critical to supporting better decisions. And so I think the best way to think about where the industry is going, is to think about where decision making is going. And what we see is that customers are trying to do two things. One is decentralized decision making, and that can be done by democratizing data. So the more data you get in the hands of more folks in the organization, the more decisions you can make. The second is automating decisions, and that is fundamentally around artificial intelligence and machine learning. So using model to say, we've seen this pattern, we're going to make this decision, and then have that model learn over time to make better decisions. And both of those kind of trends, both the democratization of data as well as artificial intelligence for automated decision making, just raise the stakes in terms of the importance of data integrity. And so I think 5 years from now it will still be an issue, but what we'll find is that it will just be it'll be more important to get it right, and the definition of right will be a more sophisticated and kind of fine-grained answer in terms of what's acceptable. And so we think that really what people need to think about is how do they get more precision in their data, and we like to think that Precisely is uniquely situated to help.
It's interesting you use the word democratize, because as I talk to many vendors and many executives, it's a word that does come up again and again. I mean, of course, it's all about the movement from having the data and the information making, machinery, so to speak, only with the executive suite, or letting the data filter down through, throughout the hierarchy. It seems like that movement in particular is a particularly important part of getting the most from data. Is democratizing the data something that your clients and customers talk about a lot?
Absolutely. And I think what we're seeing is, there's a number of, solutions in the marketplace like Tableau and visualization tools that are making that a reality, and giving people access to data in a way that they can understand and use it without having to be a data scientist. And we think that's great. But what's critical is that that data is correct, right? Not just correct, but also governed appropriately, because obviously there's a growing complexity around the regulations of who can use data, how they can use it, for what purpose. So you want to support that data democratization. At the same time, you want to do it in a way that helps lead to good decisions, and is in keeping with local regulations.
Interesting. Well, Josh, I think you said it. It's going to be interesting to keep up with this field, to be sure. I very much appreciate you sharing your expertise today. Thank you very much.
Thanks for having me on the program, James. Appreciate it.